last time and realized the website was not working, and then I opened up the Sermon Audio app and could not even find our broadcast. I was like, something's not right. Okay, so I'm going to start YouTube. I'll go to YouTube, turn off the live chat. Then I will open up the Church One app and the Sermon Audio app to ensure everything is working correctly. Because the last thing I want to do is do a 45-minute, 50-minute, an hour-long broadcast, and for some weird reason, nothing worked, okay? And then everything is kind of lost. So I don't want to do that. So, all right, YouTube has begun. Let me go back to YouTube really quick. All right, do a search for Theology Central. All right, there we are. And there we are. I don't want to do that. So, all right, YouTube has begun. Let me go back to YouTube really quick. If I can get it to pause. All right, there we go. Then I can turn off the live chat. That is good. Come back to the dashboard. All right. Two people from Texas is listening. I've clicked once. That means someone else from Texas is listening. If you are, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate that. And hang on. I'm going to come back over here to webcast. I just want to make sure that everything is working correctly. I'm being a little, maybe I'm checking more than once here. That's not what I wanted. All right. I wanted the actual Sermon Audio website. Here we go. I'm going to go back to webcast. All right. I'm going to click on this. All right. It looks like the funeral has ended, so that webcast will be going away. That's not what I wanted. Right? Okay. I wanted the actual Sermon Audio web. There we go. That seems to be okay. I'm going to listen one more time just to make sure we sound okay. Test 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. All right. I'm going to click on this. All right. Sounds okay. All right. We got that fixed. All right. I think we're good to go. I think everything. Oh, I'm going to open up the Sermon Audio website, Sermon Audio app. I'm going to open up the Sermon Audio app. There we are. How do we sound on the Sermon Audio app? Play audio. How do we sound? All right, I think we're good to go. All right, we sound okay there. So everything seems to be working. Okay. Like I said, I tried this earlier and had to stop the broadcast because things were not working. All right. Hang on, let's go. I'm going to Church One. I'm going to click on that. Okay, there. So everything seems to be working. Okay. All right, I think everything is good. I think everything is good. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can do this now. I think we can. All right, where is the Sermon Audio dashboard? All right, North Carolina. Hey, North Carolina has shown up. That proves everything. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what was happening earlier. Oh, and Canada has shown back up. Canada, Ontario, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, I tried to go live about, 15, 20 minutes ago, and something was not right. The Sermon Audio website was not working. I went to these, it showed that we were live, but if under my dashboard, but if you went to the Sermon Audio app, it did not show our webcast was there. Something was not working correctly, but everything seems to be good now. So I'm appreciative of that. So what we're about to do is not going to be so good, but that's a whole different story. And we'll talk about that here. Let me go ahead and pull up my, I have a few notes, but I pulled those up. All right. Oh, I need to grab my Bibles. Hang on. I need both Bibles for this. All right. I got 2 Bibles. I got notebooks. I got pencils. I got a book on hermeneutics, a hermeneutics textbook right here. I got a multiple hermeneutical textbooks laying around here, but if we need those, we needed them last time. Well, I'll explain everything. All right. Are you ready? Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Without any further delay, we go live in 5, 4, 3. Hang on. My intro is not set up. Okay. Now it's ready. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. Are you ready to talk about body parts? I know that sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? But that's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about body parts. this is going to get kind of interesting, and I'm going to explain everything right after I say, good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is Friday, December the 19th, 2025. It is currently 11:10 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. So last night, I was trying to decide what to do, right? Do I continue to play a video game? Do I watch something on television? Do I listen to music? Do I continue reading a novel? Do I finish up trying to read all of the issues for a comic book crossover event that happened in 1990? Do I do that? What do I do? What do I do? So I was kind of, one of those trying to pick. And next thing you know, 1 minute was turning into 2 minutes, 2 minutes was turning into 10. And I'm like, oh, I got to pick something. So you know what I do whenever I'm sitting here and I don't know exactly what to do? I open up the Sermon Audio website, and that's what I did. I opened up the Sermon Audio website, and the next thing I know is I see a sermon from the book, from the Song of Solomon. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh boy, where is this going to take me today? Where is this going to go? Where is this going to lead? So hang on, I'm going to pull up my library here. I think it will pull up here. I mean, maybe it will, maybe under my history. Actually, it doesn't show up here. I don't have the sermon pulled up right in front of me, but basically when I pulled up the sermon, I was like, oh no, because it's called The Spiritual Anatomy of a Believer. All right. The Spiritual Anatomy of the Believer from the, I can't remember what it's called, something along the lines from like your foot to your hair, something along those lines. All right. And I was like, wait a minute, we're going to use the Song of Solomon and we're going to talk about the anatomy of a believer. How is this going to work? So I'm like, okay, this could be really, really bad, but we can make it, I decided to approach it in a more lighthearted way. Like I have a little bit of fun, like we're getting ready to go to a bad B movie, because I knew, Song of Solomon, somehow that's about us. And then we're going to use the anatomy of head and hair to talk about the spiritual anatomy of a believer. The whole thing just looked like it was going to be a train wreck. And ladies and gentlemen, it did not disappoint. Okay. Now the only disappointing part is, well, now that impromptu, let's start a sermon review now is turning into, now this is part 2 of that sermon review, and it could turn into a part 3. So it kind of turns into a mini series, not exactly what I wanted to accomplish, but well, we're gonna see where we're gonna go. All right. So are you ready to try to put this all together? All right. So here we go. In part 1, we never made it very far. And of course, I know you're not surprised or shocked by that, but we did not make it very far into the sermon itself. And that happens. And the reason it kind of happens is because I think before we can truly evaluate all the details of the sermon, we have to examine kind of the assumption it's built upon, right? I always try to look for that, right? When I'm listening to a sermon, what is the assumption? Is there an assumption that this entire sermon is built upon? Is there, what is the basic thesis? I kind of look for those basics to try to, I want to identify those at the very beginning of a sermon, because then that gives me the ability to kind of evaluate everything that comes after, because I know that it's built off the foundational assumption that the sermon is built upon. Sometimes that's easy to do, sometimes it's not. In this particular case, this one wasn't very hard, all right? So basically what we established in part 1, and it may be simple, but it's very critical, that their claim, the kind of the foundational assumption, is that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus. All right, that's kind of the foundational claim. The Song of Solomon is about Jesus. It's not what it appears to be about. It's about Jesus, right? And let's make sure this is very important. I want to make sure you get this. This claim that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus, it does not come from the text itself. When any pastor claims that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus, that is not coming from the text itself. So immediately, they can't sit there and say, oh, we believe in sola scriptura. No, you don't, because you're now claiming the Song of Solomon is about Jesus, and the text itself would not lead anyone to that conclusion, all right? And this idea that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus does not come from the apostles. It does not come from the New Testament. It doesn't. And so the best he could do is try to go to these passages that speak of, well, the Old Testament speaks of Jesus. Well, yeah, in certain parts of the Old Testament it does. It doesn't mean every single word of every single verse does. And there's nothing that would tell us that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus other than an assumption. And we can go right back in church history and point to exactly where that assumption begins, which we did last night, all right? In fact, this entire interpretation, this entire idea that the Song of Solomon is about Jesus, I cannot stress this enough. This comes with, if we want to trace it to one individual, it's Origen, 3rd century. He's the one who starts this. And why did he turn the Song of Solomon into an allegory about Jesus? Because ultimately, Origen felt that the Song of Solomon, if we interpret it the way it appears, if we interpret it based on what it seems to be saying, he basically was like, this is dangerous. This is scandalous. We can't do that. No. There's no way this book can be saying what it appears to be saying, so it's all an allegory. It's all, I mean, hey guys, if we go with the interpretation of what this book appears to be saying, it's going to get banned from public libraries in 2025 by Republicans. We can't do that. Okay, I'm a little bit of a joke there, but I mean, yeah, it would be scandalous. So he thought it was dangerous. So what do we have to do? Let's make it all an allegory. It's about Jesus. No matter how uncomfortable that becomes in trying to do that, that's what his approach was. And it's kind of stayed within Christianity since Origen came up with this wonderful, well, and I'm being sarcastic there, this idea. Now, this is very important. Once the allegorical approach becomes the dominant way of reading the Song of Solomon, well, eventually, you're going to end up in all kinds of problems, all right? Because when all of a sudden, basically the entire book of the Song of Solomon becomes kind of a spiritual anatomy chart, it becomes where all of a sudden every body part is assigned a theological meaning. Well, then, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know where you go after that, all right? Because I think once you allow it, once the physical body of the woman in the Song of Solomon chapter 7, which is where we are, the Song of Solomon chapter 7, because it describes the physical body of a woman, once her body becomes the spiritual anatomy of you and me, there's no longer any hermeneutical guardrails. There's no longer, just throw it all out. Let me state it again. If someone can open their Bible, go to the Song of Solomon, see the physical description of a woman, and say that physical description of that woman is actually a spiritual allegory for my anatomy of myself as a believer, then let me just say this. I'm not having as much fun now. Now I'm getting irritated. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, just forget it. All right? Let's just put the Bible away. Let's close the church down because there's no truth. There's no ability to find truth. There's no ability to interpret the Bible. If literally you can open up the Song of Solomon and the physical body of a woman becomes an allegory for the spiritual anatomy of a believer, then you can just make the Bible say whatever you want. There is no way to say anybody is wrong about anything. It's just spiritual anarchy, all right? Just forget it. Don't even try to push back on this. There is no hope, all right? If the body of a woman becomes somehow an allegory for the spiritual anatomy of a believer, then I can just go to the Bible and make anything say anything. Don't get mad when people say the Bible doesn't condemn homosexuality. How dare you get mad at them for doing that when you can take the body of a woman and turn it into some kind of allegory for the anatomy of a believer? Then you can say anything. You can just make it say literally whatever you want. It's so weird the things that Christians will sit in the pulpit or sit in the pew listening to what comes from the pulpit and they accept it. They don't push back. But then in other areas, they're like, oh, you're not handling the word of God correctly. What are you doing? Well, no, once you allow this kind of nonsense, nobody can say anybody is wrong. If the physical body of a woman in the Song of Solomon chapter 7 somehow is the allegory of the anatomy of the body of a believer, then I'm sorry. It's over. It's done. Let's just stop pretending that there's anything even remotely close to any objective understanding of Scripture. All right? Because, once you reach this point, Scripture can be made to say anything. And I think at that point, disagreement becomes impossible. All right? Because at that point, interpretation is no longer controlled by the text. It's controlled by your own imagination. So here's what we're going to do in part 2. We're going to go back to the sermon. We're going to listen carefully as the preacher, now this is how I started, he's going to walk us through all of her body parts. He's going to talk about her feet, which he's already done. We'll skip that. And the feet supposedly represent you being spiritually ready or some nonsense like that. Then he's going to move to her thighs. Then he's going to move to her navel, then her belly, then her breast. And as he does this, I want you to just ask yourself, is this Scripture or is this just someone's vivid imagination? And I think it's someone's very vivid imagination. So if you have the Song of Songs, some Bibles have it listed that way. The Song of Songs, this one I have right here has it listed. The Song of Songs, that's chapter 7 of the Song of Songs, or in this Bible, the Song of Solomon, chapter 7. Let's open it up. And I'm going to go ahead and say this again. I know I'm going to offend a lot of people, but I don't care, all right? Because this is just a reality. And even the pastor we're listening to had to admit this, all right? The Song of Solomon is written by Solomon. Solomon was an adulterer. He was a polygamist, and he became an idolater. All right. So anytime you go to church and someone's like, let's open up to Proverbs or Ecclesiastes or the Song of Solomon, just remember the one doing the teaching, the one who wrote these words was a serial adulterer, not just an adulterer. I mean, he had 1,000 women, for crying out loud, right? A polygamist and adulterer. And so when you read the Song of Solomon, and this is this passionate, erotic love letter, love poem to one of his lovers. Just remember, we don't know which number this was. Was this number 2, number 5, number 10, number 15, number 30, number 40, number 45, number 50, number 60, number 70, number 100, number 323, number 546? We don't know. And this makes people greatly uncomfortable. So that's why we go, oh. It's all about Jesus, no matter how uncomfortable that becomes. But it's a reality we have to deal with. So are you ready to go back to this? Now, I backed it up just a little bit. He's finishing up that the feet, if I took some notes, let me, if I can remember correctly. Let me go back up here in my notes. If I remember correctly, yes, the feet was supposed to represent readiness for ministry. Readiness for ministry. And then he tries to claim that Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1, how beautiful are thy feet with shoes, O princess daughter. All right. He tried to claim that Paul quotes that in the book of Romans, which is just not true. Paul is quoting Isaiah, not the Song of Solomon. Don't even get me started on all of this. But here we go. Are you ready? We're gonna talk about some body parts. We're going to talk about some body parts. Oh boy. I can't even believe this is what sermon reviews have come down to, all right? We're going to go through body parts and we're just going to hear them can be made to be whatever you want them to be, other than, I guess, actual body parts. And if body parts aren't actual body parts, then is the Exodus actually the Exodus? Was the parting of the Red Sea actually the parting of the Red Sea? Who knows? Is Jesus really Jesus? Does resurrection really mean resurrection? Did virgin birth really mean virgin birth? I don't know, because nothing means what it appears to be. So you just make it whatever you want to be, and you'll be in good company with Christianity, all right? Are you ready? Here we go.
And that surely should be us. And then he looks not at the thigh, but the joints of the thigh. The action. There is jewels, he says, the works of a cunning workman. Of course, the Lord is the master craftsman. We're told in Ephesians 2 and the verse 10 that we are God's workmanship, created for good works.
Okay, look, I'm going to try not to laugh at this. I'm going to try. I want to be respectful. But I'm sorry, I almost just fall on the floor cracking up. I almost do. Because this is so ridiculous, right? Okay, so Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, chapter 7, I'm going to read verse 1. How beautiful are your sandaled feet, O queen maiden. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the work of a skilled craftsman. Hey, ooh, look at those thighs, those American thighs. All right, quoting AC/DC. Okay, now I'm quoting musical lyrics. Okay, all right. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the works of a skilled craftsman. And then he's like, oh, Jesus is the master craftsman. We're created unto good works. And just quote some uncompletely disconnected verse has not a thing to do with what Solomon is saying here. Doesn't have a thing to do with what's going on here. But somehow describing her rounded thighs. No. See, shh, we don't talk like that. We're good Christians. We can't read that. That'll get banned in the public library. Come on, don't do that. That means Jesus. It's about Jesus. It's about Jesus being a good craftsman. I mean, how do you say that with a straight face? All right, I'm going to let him go on talking about her thighs. Okay. Now the King James says the joints of thy thighs. He points out that this is the joints. Now, according to this study Bible, he went like this. The Hebrew suggests not only her form, rounded thighs, but also the fluid motion of her dance. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it sounds like, makes me all think about Jesus here, right? It all makes me think about being created unto good works. I mean, come on. How do we do these things with a straight face? I don't know. All right, I'm gonna try to be calm here, and I'm not gonna try to laugh too much. But come on, it starts reaching a level of ridiculousness that it's hard to come back from. I mean, doesn't it? Am I the only one? I can't be the only one. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's take it serious. All right, those rounded thighs make me think about Jesus being the ultimate craftsman. All right. I know I made the joke in part 1. I'm going to make it again. Hey, Christian teenagers, if you're sending a text to some girl that you think is hot and you're describing her body and your parents find it, just say, no, Mom and Dad, this is about the spiritual anatomy of a believer. This is about Jesus. All right. And you say, well, that's utterly ridiculous. And this isn't?
The Christian life, again, is an animate life, full of animation, full of doing things. It's not that we're saved by works, but where there is true saving faith, there is works of righteousness. And then we thought of the navel. It speaks of the birth, doesn't it? As I mentioned before, we all have a navel. We all have a tummy button. And that signifies birth. But here, as he looks at her navel, it's perfectly rounded. Again, that picture in Ezekiel 16, he saw in the field. This new birth of ours, it's perfect.
Okay, so again, I'm going to read this text, okay? Your navel is perfectly formed like a goblet filled with mixed wine. Between your thighs lies a mound of wheat bordered with lilies. The King James says, I mean, come on. How do you read this? And I'm sorry, I am having a hard time here. Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 2. Thy navel is like a round goblet, which wanteth not liquor. Thy belly is like a heap of wheat set about with lilies. And he's like, that navel, it's perfectly round. This is your spiritual birth. What is happening? So her navel is a picture of my spiritual birth. When Song of Solomon's looking at her, checking out her body, he's not really checking out her body. He's just speaking of a metaphorical woman because, he didn't have any women to actually look at because, Song of Solomon was in deep spiritual meditation. Okay. And so he's not talking about one of his, one of 1,000 lovers, okay, wives and concubines, but he's just describing a woman because he wants to talk about my spiritual anatomy. And when he gets down to her navel, he's like, oh, spiritual birth. Oh my goodness gracious. How do I end up in these situations? I'm like, this is highly uncomfortable, okay? I think I need to start doing like Theology Central After Dark, okay? Like I'm going to have to start, whenever we do sermon reviews, because come on, this is so crazy. All right. Let's just keep going. So far, we've looked at the feet. We've gone to the thighs. He's starting from the feet, moving up. So he's gone from the feet, now to the thighs, now to the navel, all right? And then depending on your translations, you can go a lot of different directions here. I'm going to try to be careful and I'm not going to try to get too explicit, but you start reading it in a lot of different translations. You're like, wait, what is the Hebrew actually saying here? But okay.
It is wanting no liquor. No, as it were, they would treat the navel. If a child was born, they would put some form of antiseptic, either liquor, alcohol, or something. And it just shows the perfect care of God, even from the time of our spiritual birth. And God, who has begun a good work in us, dear friends, will see it to completion to the day of Jesus Christ. He cares for us more than we can ever know. A mother might care for its little baby, but the Lord says, while a mother might forget her child, I have graven thee on the palms of my hands. Not our name, but he says, I've graven thee. He cares for us. He loves us. He is our maker. He is our God. So the life, the navel, it signifies life. And then the belly. We think of the belly, where the food goes. As he looks at...
Okay, now he's going to move to the belly. But he tried to say that the liquor had some kind of anesthetic alcohol. Okay, so I immediately asked AI, and AI was like, no, it's not talking about putting liquor in the navel to clean it, disinfect it, or treat it medically. This idea is not in the text. It's completely foreign, all right? The key words navel, goblet, and liquor. This is a poetic comparison, not medical description. The Hebrew word refers to wine, not anesthetic alcohol. No concept of sterilization, no medical procedure implied, no newborn care imagery in the text itself. Her navel is like a beautiful shaped wine bowl that is never empty. This is sensual abundance imagery, not hygiene. The text is adult erotic poetry. It's not childbirth imagery. It's not infant care, okay? Nothing in the Song of Solomon signals birth, infancy, or medical treatment, all right? This is an anachronism. They are projecting modern anesthetic thinking backwards into ancient poetry. Ancient Near Eastern people did not treat navels as ongoing wounds, did not associate wine with disinfecting umbilical cords, and did not write love poetry using basically neonatal care metaphors. Look at the context. Feet, thighs, navel, belly, breast. This is a visual admiration of an adult body. This is not a metaphorical anatomy lesson. It's not a sanctification chart. Everything in the passage is emphasizing shape, fullness, beauty, fertility, pleasure, abundance. Even AI realizes this is just absolutely ridiculous. All right. This is just, and remember, he jumped to Ezekiel 16 to try to then import that back into Song of Solomon about spiritual birth. This is just, I'm telling you, if I was teaching hermeneutics in any seminary, I would walk into class and say, look, you don't need a hermeneutics class. Why are you even here? Tell your parents to give your money, to get their money back. You're wasting your time going to Bible college. You're wasting your time going to seminary. If you can do this with the Song of Solomon chapter 7, forget seminary, forget Bible college, forget Bible study. It's useless. Just go to creative writing class and learn to write fiction and then get in the pulpit and preach your stinking fiction and you'll be popular because nobody actually cares what the text is saying. Because if we talked about what the text is actually saying, you probably would get fired. Ah, come on now. All right. So this is so ridiculous. All right. We've gone to her feet, her shapely thighs. We've gone to her navel. Now we're going to her belly. All right. And the belly is described here as, let me go back to the text. Well, depend. Okay. Yeah, we can, how do we, there's, depending on the translation you read, you could end up with kind of different ideas. The King James just says, your belly is like a heap of wheat set about with lilies. That's the way the King James translates it. I will ask AI about some translation issues here to see how to approach this. Other translations, yeah, we'll see exactly how to handle this. Let's see what he has to say.
The stomach. Now, this would certainly not be a compliment to a woman. To say that she has a massive, round, large stomach as a heap of wheat. Husbands, we'd never compliment our wives by saying that. But here it's a picture. The wheat, of course, is the word. The seed, the grain of God's precious word. And what does he look when he sees his people were born of his spirit? They hunger after the word, and they hunger after righteousness. They hunger to know more of Jesus Christ. Do they not? This is all very true, isn't it? And of course, he is the word. He is the bread of life. John 6, I'm the bread which has come down from heaven. Your fathers ate manna in the wilderness.
This is so ridiculous. Now, wheat is the word and Jesus is the word. All of a sudden I thought this was the anatomy of me, but now it's about Jesus. Okay, so I did ask AI. AI says, you're right to notice that the English translations can blur what's actually being described in the Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 2. Once we slow down and look at the Hebrew and the poetic logic, the picture becomes much clearer. Are you ready to see what the clearer picture is? I don't know what AI is going to say. I have not read this first. Remember, whenever I do these reviews, everything is happening in real time. I don't go rehearse all of this and plan it all out. So I'm just listening to the sermon, trying to figure it out with you. All right. So the Hebrew text, what body parts are actually named? All right. Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 2, the Hebrew terms are highlighted, all right? So it's like a round goblet that lacks no wine. And then they use a Hebrew word here that's like a heap of wheat encircled with lilies, all right? Now, there seems to be no argument that it's referring to the navel. The first one, that it's like a round goblet, that definitely seems to be the navel, the lower abdomen kind of area. But the next one becomes a little bit more difficult in the Hebrew. Some may say belly, but other may say the womb. So this would be the abdomen or the belly or the womb region. Okay? So, Hebrew poetry does not divide the body with modern anatomical precision. Ancient imagery often moves visually, not clinically. The navel is being used as a central focal point, not an isolated organ. So this verse is not switching topics randomly, it's zooming out. The focal point, the navel, center, symmetry, beauty, expanded region, belly, womb, fullness, fertility, abundance. All right? So the navel is like a round goblet that lacks no wine. This seems to be communicating shape, centrality, abundance, sensuality. This is not about function. It's about visual aesthetic appeal. Basically, hey, you're good looking, and I'm going to talk about every part of your body. The belly is a heap of wheat. The belly is like a heap of wheat set about with lilies. This communicates fullness, fertility, nourishment, beauty framed by flowers. Heap of wheat isn't insulting. It's the ancient word. In the ancient world, it symbolized prosperity, fruitfulness, life-giving abundance. All right? And lilies are decorative and erotic throughout the song. All right? So yeah. So it's the womb. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's describing a woman's body. And if you're going to say, this Jesus is the bread of life, what in the world are you talking about? Wait, that's the word. What do you do? Because you don't want to deal with what's actually here. So you just make up this garbage spiritual analogy. So let me read it again. I'm going to read it. I'm reading it in a different translation. Song of Songs, chapter 7, verse 2. Your navel is perfectly formed like a goblet filled with mixed wine. Between your thighs lies a mound of wheat bordered with lilies. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say there, right? I mean, you can go with belly, but it seems to have the womb. Fertility, bring forth life. Yeah. But somehow this is about Jesus, because he's the word, and he's the bread of life, and it's about the Bible. Yeah, I'm sure when he's describing her body, he was thinking, ooh, the word, the word in Jesus. That's has nothing to do with this text. Nothing to do with it.
They ate and they died. But what did he say? I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger. And so on. But we hunger more for him, don't we? We might hunger more for him. But one day we shall have his presence. We long for that above all else, do we not? And then thirdly, we saw the development. If you notice there, thy two breasts are like two young roes that are twins. We thought of this before in earlier chapters. We've seen it. As I've said, 95% of the time when roe deer give birth, they give birth to twins. And it is when we're born again. There are two cardinal graces that we're given chiefly. Anyone that is born again is given faith. And if we're given faith, we've been given eyes to see Christ. And if we've been given eyes to see Christ, we surely love him. We love him. Where there's true faith, there's love. And Paul...
This is for crying out loud. Now her breast is somehow faith. And what is happening right now? Okay. I gave... Oh man, I'm trying to keep it all together here. I showed AI the one Bible that I have here, this translation, and AI says, between your thighs lies a mound of wheat bordered with lilies. This is not a sloppy translation, all right? This is an interpretive translation making explicit what the Hebrew is implying. The older English translation softened this by saying belly, body, abdomen, but the Hebrew poetry, abdomen, if I can say the word correctly, but the Hebrew poetry itself is doing something very specific, all right? The poem moves deliberately and anatomically the feet, the rounded thighs, navel, and then the area between the thighs, then the breast, then the neck. This is not an accidental sequence. It is erotic admiration poetry, very common in the Near East. The wheat mound is fertility. Lilies, beauty, desirability, erotic framing. Between the thighs, reproductive region. The translation you're looking at simply refused to pretend otherwise. See, but you can't do this in church, right? No. We've got to be very, we can't do this. We can't talk about this. It's about Jesus. It's about Jesus being wheat. It's about Jesus being bread. Do you understand how whacked and weird and creepy that all sounds? This is describing a woman's body, very specific area, and we're going to say, this is Jesus. What is happening right now? Right? And I'm going to back this up because I was still trying to figure this out, and then he moved immediately to her breast, and the breast all of a sudden become, I don't even understand what is happening here. Okay, I got to back this up. I'm trying to keep it together. This is just so crazy. Okay, I think I backed too far, but that's okay. Here we go.
Twins. We thought of this before in earlier chapters. We've seen it. As I've said, 95% of the time when roe deer give birth, they give birth to twins. And it is when we're born again. There are two cardinal graces that we're given chiefly. Anyone that is born again is given faith. And if we're given faith, we've been given eyes to see Christ. And if we've been given eyes to see Christ, we surely love him. We love him. Where there's true faith, there's love. And Paul tells us in Galatians 3 that faith worketh by love. These, the apostle says,
her breasts are faith and love. Well, then don't get upset if you go to church and some woman is showing a lot of her cleavage. She's just representing faith and love. So don't get upset about it. Don't get mad if you're watching some show and a woman is showing a lot of cleavage. She's just showing faith and love. I mean, it's just symbolic. I mean, what is this? All right. So AI, because I asked AI says the text is plainly, in an unambiguous way, talking about her actual breast. There is no linguistic or literary ambiguity at this point in the poem. The text itself, Song of Solomon, your breasts are like two fawns, twin fawns of a gazelle. Breast is explicit in Hebrew. This is the same word used elsewhere for literal female breast. There is no metaphorical signal that we're suddenly shifted away from the body. Fawns, this is the idea of softness and symmetry, beauty, vitality. Twins, balance and proportion. Gazelle, grace and desirability. This is standard, ancient, Near Eastern, erotic love poetry. This is not theology in code. All right? Once the poem says your breasts are like two fawns, there are only two options. Acknowledge that the poem is celebrating physical beauty and desire, and refuse the literal sense and just replace it with allegory. All right? So that's why you end up hearing things like breast equals faith and love or some other spiritual pairing. But that meaning is not hinted in the text. It's not required by the context. It definitely is not supported by the grammar, the genre of literature in which we are reading, or the flow. It is imposed because the literal meaning makes people uncomfortable, not because it fails exegetically. All right? The thighs are literal. The navel is literal. The place between the thighs is literal. The breasts are literal. The neck is literal. The eyes are literal. The hair is literal. There is no internal cue saying, hey, stop reading physically and start reading spiritually. All right? The only reason people switch gears is because of their own discomfort, not because of any textual necessity. All of a sudden, the breasts become faith and love. Come on, man. Come. All right, and I apologize. I know I'm all over the place. I'm trying to keep it together, but this is just crazy stuff, right? I mean, can you imagine going to church and this is what you hear? Like, how do you even not? The crowd is silent. I'm sorry. I'd be laughing. I'd be laughing so hard, you'd have to carry me out of the building. I'd probably get removed. Security? We need to get the guy on pew 4. He's got to go. Stop laughing. This is serious hermeneutical work. We're doing deep exegetical study here. Yeah, sure you are. Sure, yeah. Song of Solomon. That's what when he saw those breasts, he was like, faith and love. Praise Jesus. That's what he said. Yeah, come on now. Give me a break. All right. Man, I can't. All right. Let's. This is so ridiculous. I don't even know. How do you do a review on this? I don't know. It's like I've got to be like, now, all right, junior high boys, calm down. All right, we're in health class today. We're going to talk about the anatomy of the human body. Now, when I say these words, don't start giggling, okay? All right, I'm going to talk about breasts. Stop, Johnny, stop laughing. It's almost like, all right, the church can't handle it. So we're like, oh, no, we don't have to talk about this. Because we don't talk about this. Because this is all spiritual. This is all godly. Okay. All right. I mean, you can play that game. But just remember this. The minute you play that game and the next thing you know, people are finding UFOs in the Bible and aliens and secret conspiracies and who knows what else, don't mock them. Because if you can do this, they can do whatever they want with any passage they want. And if someone says, well, Jesus actually wasn't a person, he was this, and he was a spirit pretending to be a person. Don't get all literal then and say, no. When they say, well, the garden, wasn't an actual talking snake. This is all symbolic. It wasn't an actual talking snake. It wasn't. No. Don't get mad. If you can do this to the Song of Solomon, then I'm sorry. It's a free-for-all. Do whatever you want with scripture. Make it say the most ridiculous things, and I will support you because obviously this is the ridiculousness you can get in supposedly a conservative reformed church. Man, I have a hard time with this. This is where I just start losing my mind.
In 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 8, he says, but let us who of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love. And here we have symmetry, do we not? Like two young rows that are twins. They grow together in equal proportion, symmetry. There's lots of words we can think of to describe this. Again, it would be a hideous thing for a man to have much faith and no love. He knows a lot, but there's no love, there's no action. Likewise, somebody that says they have great love, but that love is so misdirected, there's no faith in it. There's no direction. What a hideous thing. Where there is true faith, there will be a deepening of love. The more we know about the Lord, friends, the more we will love him. 1 Corinthians 8, we're told, if any man is known of God.
Please note, these cross-references are he's just randomly choosing cross-references. The cross-references are not placed in the historical context, a literary context, textual context, none. He's just connecting them to the Song of Solomon when there's no textual reason to be connecting them there. And he's doing this simply, there's no reason to do this other than you just don't want to talk about what's actually in the Song of Solomon. You just don't want to because it's uncomfortable. Can you imagine trying to preach through this? Can you imagine that? All right, young people, we're going to be talking about how Solomon's checking out this woman and he's going to describe her body. No laughing, no giggling. I mean, okay. All right. Let's just keep going.
This one is loved of him. A true knowledge of our Lord will produce a true love and love for each other. Because we know they're only what we are by his grace. And as he looks at the belly, he sees the lilies there. The belly is surrounded by lilies. And what are we told? He feedeth among the lilies. The lilies, we're told, are fellow believers. They're all seeking to be those chaste virgins, white as the lily, pure as he is pure. And then, following having seen the development, the breasts, fourthly, the neck.
Just as he continues to go through this, just doing whatever, making these things say whatever. I think it's the Mishnah around 200 AD. Around 200 AD, there was a discussion or a debate about the Song of Solomon, and it went something like this, and maybe it was, I don't know the exact source. But within Judaism, there was a debate about the Song of Solomon, and basically it was whether, and I'm quoting here, whether the Song of Solomon defiles the hands. So it was a technical kind of phrase, meaning whether it is sacred scripture, all right? So what was the conclusion? Many believed that the Song of Solomon actually defiles the hand, unequivocally. There's no question about it, all right? One rabbi famously declared, all the scriptures are holy, but the Song of Songs is the holy of holies, all right? So that kind of made it like, well, then how do we understand this, all right? So many defended it, but others thought it defiles the hand. So did it defile the hand? Others said unequivocally, but then a rabbi said, no. It's the holy of holies. All right. So, yeah. And I'm just kind of going through some different, it sounds for the most part that in early Christianity, they did not seriously question whether the Song of Solomon belonged in the Bible, but they did struggle with, how do we preach this? How do we read this publicly? How do we reconcile this? That's ultimately why they came to the allegory, because they didn't know what to do, because they felt like it defiled the hands. All right? So I think really you kind of get kind of two thoughts. Some within ancient Judaism would say, hey, keep the Song of Solomon. They didn't question whether it belonged, but read it carefully and respect its power. The Christian solution was keep the text, but explain it away. That's kind of how it went. So there wasn't a lot. The reason I was just looking things up because I was questioning. I was just trying to remember if there was much debate about its inclusion in the canon. It doesn't seem like there was ever much debate that it belonged in the canon of Scripture. It was more like, what in the world do we do with this thing? What do we do? Because as it says, some believed it defiled the hands. Unequivocally, it defiled the hands. To take the Song of Solomon, you're defiling yourself in some way, shape, or form. So then they were like, what do we do with this? What do we do with this? And so they struggled. So the allegory became dominant within Christianity. Judaism seemed to be like, hey, we got to be careful with this. It's powerful. We have to respect it. And Christians were like, we're just going to explain it away so that we don't even have the problem.
Thy neck is as a tower of ivory. We've seen that previously in chapter 4 and the verse 4. Thy neck is like a tower of David, builded as an armory. Now, we'd never say that, men, to our wives, would we? She wouldn't take that as a compliment, to say that she has such a strong, big neck. But the neck pictures the will, does it not? We thought of the daughters of Israel of old, who walked with wanton necks, stretched, craned necks. We sometimes speak, do we not, of that person, well, he's got a brass neck, meaning he's got a strong will. Scripture also uses the phrase, ye stiff-necked people, slow of heart. We're told in the Psalms and also elsewhere that one can speak with a stiff neck. That is analogous of the will. And her neck, her will, is for him. Is because we desire him. Look at verse 10. I'm my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. She wants to love him. And as a result, his desire is for her. And our desire is for him. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. And then we think of this neck, it's ivory. Ivory, figurative of purity and strength at the same time. It's a pure, strong will. It's not self-will, but it's his will. And if it's his will, it'll be a pure will. It's a perfect will. And we say, do we not in life? Thy will be done. We weren't like that once, were we? We were so stiff-necked.
At this point, it just kind of becomes, now it stopped being fun now. Now you're just like, whatever. At this point, I don't even care. Like I could sit there and go through each one of these, but whatever. You know, it's just ridiculous. You're just making them say whatever you want. To me, my issue is, there's deeper issues. First, there's no question around it. This is erotic poetry, and you're going to have to deal with that reality. It's in the Bible. I don't know what you do with it, but it's there. Second, we have to deal with just the reality that this is an erotic poem written by a serial adulterer and a polygamist who became an idolater. All right? But I think we have to ask ourselves, does authorship equate to moral endorsement? Because scriptures contains words from adulterers, David, murderer, David, idolater, Solomon, who is a polygamist and an adulterer. So God seems to speak through them without endorsing anything about them. All right. And I don't think this is unique necessarily to the Song of Solomon. Inspiration does not require moral consistency in the human author. I think that's something we have to just process. Inspiration does not require moral consistency in the human author. If it did, half of the Psalms would disappear, Genesis would collapse, and much of prophetic literature would probably be suspect. Even if Solomon is involved in authorship, the song represents mutual desire, exclusivity, faithfulness, delight without domination, which is ironically the opposite of Solomon's later life. Many scholars argue that the song functions as an ideal of love, not a diary of Solomon's behavior. All right? Yeah, I'm thinking. So I am gonna do this. So I am gonna ask AI a question here. Was there, or I'm gonna put is there debate that Solomon wrote the book? All right, let's see here. I don't think so. Hang on, what's the beginning of it? Hang on. All right, well, AI. This is Solomon's Song of Songs. The text seems to connect it to Solomon. It says, there is real long-standing scholarly debate about whether Solomon actually wrote the Song of Solomon, and that debate is much stronger today than many people realize. Importantly, this debate is not modern skepticism trying to undermine Scripture, but arises from textual, linguistic, literary, and historical observations. What the text claims is that the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. That phrase sounds decisive in English, but in Hebrew, it is not unambiguous, all right? The Hebrew construction can mean by Solomon, for Solomon, about Solomon or belonging to kind of the tradition of Solomon. So grammatically, authorship is not asserted with precision. Don't know about that. It says language and vocabulary. Many scholars note that the song contains late Hebrew features, Aramaic influence, and Persian loan words. These linguistic elements point to a post-Solomon period, often dated several centuries later. This doesn't settle the issue by itself, but it strongly complicates a 10th century BC authorship. The song reflects kind of a rural village life, shepherd imagery, agricultural rhythms, mutual romantic pursuit. This is not the world of Solomon's royal court, wealth, power, and political marriages. Ironically, the song presents exclusive mutual love, equality between lovers, an absence of polygamy, and no harem imagery. This stands in tension with the Solomon's historical life. Solomon is a literary figure inside the poem. Solomon appears as a character, not just as an author. Solomon is observed, sometimes distanced, possibly even contrasted with the ideal love portrayed. All right. And it goes through a long situation. So I guess if you could remove Solomon as the author, you may resolve some of that conflict. Right? Okay, well, it's not written by an adulterer. It's not written by a polygamist. So then maybe it's a little easier to process. So, but I don't know. I mean, that verse 1 sounds clear, but maybe it's not as clear. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's more ambiguous in the Hebrew than it appears to be in the English. So I'm going to ask AI a question. So what can we, in an accurate way, take from this erotic poem? All right, let's see what AI gives us here. All right. Okay, so here's some of the things AI says we can take away from this and still treat it as an erotic poem, because that's what it does. That's what it is, all right? It's a fact, okay? The Song of Solomon affirms the goodness of embodied love, all right? The song affirms that the body, desire, attraction, and pleasure are not sinful in themselves. This is not trivial, it's deeply biblical. This places the song firmly in line with Genesis 1 through 2, creation before the fall, very good, bodies, sexual desire without shame. The poem does not treat desire as dirty, as dangerous, or needing justification. Instead, desire is seen as mutual, celebrated, expressed poetically, and framed within exclusivity. That alone corrects a huge amount of unbiblical Christian suspicion towards the body. Love is mutual, not transactional or in a hierarchical sense. One of the most striking features of the song, the woman speaks as much or more than the man. She desires, she seeks, she initiates, she praises. This is not domination. It's mutual. It's not like she doesn't have a voice, she doesn't have a say, she doesn't have any agency. She gets to speak. And it shows that the woman has desires as well. Not just the bad man, but women have desires as well. All right. So, this is not portraying ownership or control or duty-based intimacy. Love is a reward. Love is seen as not as a reward or obligation. Desire is freely given, love is responsive, and attraction flows both ways. So this would challenge kind of a power-based view of marriage, or reduction of sex to a specific, to the man, or it doesn't do that. And I think it's showing that it's mutual. It's both are involved. Not one is like, well, I'm doing this because I have to or because it's my duty. They both are overwhelmed with physical desire for the other, and they both speak and they both express that desire. All right? Yeah. All right. There's much more we could get into, but I just wanted, there's some basic lessons we could take away from it. We'll go a little bit we're already at an hour. I don't know if I'm going to review the rest of this because at this point it's just getting ridiculous. I'll let it go just a little bit longer. But I mean, obviously every body part, he's going to go through all the body parts. I mean, it's just, yeah.
So determined to do her own thing. Then we thought before last, of the spiritual eyes, where he describes her eyes. And the analogy is clear here. It's the eyes of the believer. Thine eyes are like the fish pools of Heshbon, by the gate of Bath Rabbim. As the Lord looks down, it's like a fish pool. Of course, the believer's looking up. You can think of these lakes, these pools, and here these fish pools of Heshbon. We're in this area where the Amalekites were, and they wouldn't let the people come in. The people of Israel, as they went through to the promised land, and as a result, well, they would have lived. But they determined to not let Moses and the people go through. Numbers 21, we're told. And, well, ultimately, they were destroyed. And that whole place.
At this point, I'm sorry, I'm moving the microphone. It's like I'm just done. I was just moving the microphone, going to get up. But just so that you know, if you keep going through this text, if you get down to verse 6 through 9, this takes a very explicit turn. Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 6. Oh, how beautiful you are, how pleasing, my love, how full of delights. You are slender like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its cluster of fruit. I said, I will climb the palm tree and take hold of its fruit. May your breasts be like grape clusters, and the fragrance of your breath like apples. May your kisses be as exciting as the best wine. All right. The palm tree is her body. The climbing is physical approach. The fruit is clusters are her breast. The wine, pleasure, taste, intoxication. The breath, mouth, intimacy. This is deliberate sexual imagery. All right. There's no way to get around this. All right. Okay, the speaker says, I will climb. This is not vague admiration. It's expressing desire and the intent, all right? The imagery intensifies from admiration to bodily description to physical approach to shared pleasure where the woman responds. Right? This is mutual erotic dialogue. It's not metaphorical theology. All right? So there's just no way to, I mean, how far do you go in this, right? I mean, we could go through every passage. Oh man, it just becomes so weird. It just becomes so weird what this pastor is doing. I don't even understand. Like I've lost interest in it completely, right? Because it's just like, whatever. All right. So I'm just going to try to find a good stopping point. And then if you want to go, I'll pull up, hang on. Where's the name of this sermon? Hang on. I think I have it here. Let me see here. Yeah, the name of the sermon is The Spiritual Anatomy of the Believer, Thy Head and Thine Hair. All right. And it's already got 31 downloads, so it will be more popular than anything I do. And that's bizarre. Not because it's me versus them. It's that interpretation could be even remotely popular. I don't get it. Maybe people are just listening because they're sitting at home going, this is crazy. Maybe, I'm hoping.
That city where we read there, Heshbon, became one of the Levite cities. And the people consider this a beautiful place. It was a beautiful place. Thine eyes like the fish pools in Heshbon. You could see the fish down, as you look down from the hilltops over these fish pools, crystal clear water. And the sense is the Lord He sees his people looking upwards. Before he mentioned thou hast dove's eyes. And of course, doves love to look at each other. They can gaze at each other for a long time. But here, the sense is, how does he see the eyes are like fishpool? I suppose just like if you're looking over a great elevation and you see the water, the turquoise water on a clear summer's day, and you can see it's crystal clear. And you see the Lord has taken all haze, as it were, all haziness from our eyes as we look up to him. It's a picture of trust. As the believer trusts in the Lord, he's looking up. It's we could say, a posture of trust and humility. We ever look up to the Lord, as the psalmist says. Psalm 123, we read, unto thee I lift up mine eyes, O Lord, that dwellest in the heavens. The believer's looking up every day. By faith, he looks up. It's a picture that our hope and our trust is in the Lord. And we read in that Psalm 123, behold, as the eyes of servants look into the hands of their masters, and as the eyes of a maiden unto the hand of her mistress, so our eyes wait upon the Lord our God. Just like that psalm we sang in the Psalm 45. Our eyes are constantly looking up to the King of Kings, the maker of heaven and earth. Jesus Christ has made all things. And he is in heaven, he looks down. The psalmist says in Psalm 5, verse 3, my voice shalt thou hear in the morning. O Lord, in the morning I will direct my prayer unto thee. I will look up. It's phraseology, acknowledging that God is in the heavens. While we might have our head bowed down in prayer, essentially we're looking up to him, aren't we? And we're calling upon him. And he sees the eyes, and as you behold him in the scriptures, he gives clearness of spiritual sight, doesn't he?
Look, it just gets creepy and weird taking erotic poetry and then having, we're looking up at Jesus. It just gets weird. I don't even, it makes me uncomfortable even trying to figure this out. Because you can't really start trying to see the way he's describing it. If you take the way he's describing it and bring it back to the actual erotic imagery, language being used, it gets really creepy. So what you have to do is just kind of say, well, forget what's actually going on in the Song of Solomon. Let's just create this beautiful picture that we're kneeling before Jesus, looking up, and he looks into our eyes and he clears our eyes. But you just got to forget that it's coming from an erotic poem. I don't, it's just weird and creepy. It's bizarre. It's insane. I don't even have words for it. I don't even know what you do with this anymore. Especially considering we know what's coming up in the section. It's about to get very explicit. I don't even know if he gets that far. If he goes that far, maybe I don't even know. Man, how do you do? I don't know. All right, I'm just going to stop. I don't know what else to say. I feel like if I keep talking, I'm 1 second away from getting myself canceled and banned. Okay, I got to be very, very careful how to. I can't even describe what's going on in the text because I'm going to get myself in trouble. But you know what's funny? Is what will not get you trouble in church? See, if you stand up behind the pulpit and actually handle the Song of Solomon with what's actually being said, it's going to be scandalous. You're going to get in trouble. People are going to accuse you of being sensationalist and you're trying to use sex to get people to come to your church. You're going to get in all kinds of trouble. But if you stand behind the pulpit and absolutely obliterate the meaning of the text, but make it all safe and Hallmark-like and Disney Channel-like, oh, this is about Jesus. We have nothing to worry about. And then you make everyone comfortable. Then everyone loves your sermon and you are the godly preacher and you're not perverted. But if you handle the text maybe with what's actually being said, you're sick. What's wrong with you? Isn't it weird? So handling the text correctly gets you in trouble. Just obliterating the meaning of the text, you're the godly one. Maybe that says more about the puritanical kind of mentality we have about anything related to sensuality. Everyone in the church loses their minds. They can't handle it, even though, yeah, all right. Which then means people have to, kind of repress that, hold it back, and then that's where all the sin happens. Then in private. I don't know. It just leads to a whole host of discussions. But there you have it. I may listen to the rest at some point. If anybody listens to the rest of the sermon, all right, again, the name of the sermon, if you want to go listen to the rest, there's about 31 minutes left in the sermon, so you could fast forward it. It's 56 minutes long. We got about 31 minutes left. It's called The Spiritual Anatomy of the Believer, Thy Head and Thine Hair. If you listen to the rest and you find something like, oh, you got to go to this timestamp, then I will come back and do one more. But, I mean, we've already seen the hermeneutical approach. We've destroyed the hermeneutical approach. And I don't know what else needs to be done. But if there's something else said and you think I need to address it, let me know. All right, that was crazy. All right, I retire. All right, thanks for listening. Everyone have a great day. God bless.